Often white people will meet a black person who completely challenges every racial stereotype that they've ever had. Rather than giving up the stereotype, they create a special category for that person and say, well, you're not like other black people, or instead of saying, my ideas of black people were too narrow or too, and I think that's the tragedy of any kind of prejudicial thinking, that when we confront the circumstance that tells us it's not so, we frequently don't enlarge our sense of things. We actually come up with new ways to protect and defend that way of thinking.
Click the link. TunaBeats.com.
Hope everyone's doing well today. How's everyone doing? Today is a great day to be alive, and I just want to talk about this clip that I saw on Instagram, and something that I think about in our society that can relate to all people, not really just black people. So really, it just comes from even my own experiences that I've seen growing up. Where people tend to have a certain bias or expectation, for black men or black people based upon their own social economics that they grew up under. And a lot of times, I can go a different variety of angles with this video. So here goes. A lot of times, as a black person, you have a lot of stereotypes of being angry, mad at the world, raised in a single parent household, not as intelligent, can't think for yourself, a liberal or a leftist, someone who hates white people, and so on and so forth, right? The list just goes on and on. But then the positive side is you're seen as athletic and, you can cook good or whatever the case may be. There's all kind of stereotypes out there. And there's stereotypes for other people too that I'll get into as well. But I like what this woman is saying. As a black person, as a black man myself, one thing that I can say about American society is American society has a box that it wants you to fit into. You have to fit certain stereotypes or groups that make people feel comfortable, so that they can live comfortable and feel like you're not a threat to them, and whatever the comfort that makes them feel in terms of their own belief system and whatnot. The sad part is whenever we have these, stereotypes that are given to black people, and you have people who go against them, someone who is intelligent, someone who thinks for themselves, who is either conservative or an independent in terms of politics or political views, someone who's not in jail, who doesn't go around breaking laws or committing crime, a person, who aspires to be married and want to actually have children the right way, raise a family, breaking the single motherhood wedlock system that we have, the traumas of that within our own black community. A lot of times it's seen as if, that's rare. And while, yeah, the numbers of single motherhood, and the stereotypes outweigh those numbers, you also have black people who are functional, who live in functional environments, who are good people, who carry themselves in an upright manner, who aren't sagging their pants, who are not in gangs and twerking in the streets and the clubs and, stripper poles or the bars, restaurants. And for some reason, one thing is, black folks who have a problem with those people, they're a problem in itself, right? You're oftentimes a sellout or a coon because you don't, buy into the racial stereotypes that are negative. But then you have the white people or people of different races, Mexicans or whoever, that see a black person, black man or a black woman that carries himself with common sense. They got a certain way of being and how they carry themselves and functionality, how they're living. And then oftentimes, it seems like as if it's rare and people are shocked. So people don't know how to treat them. People don't know how to come by and they look at you and, they're trying to look you up and down, sideways, left and right, east, west, north, south, trying to figure out who you are and why you're not like everyone else, that's stereotyped. And I like what this woman is saying, because in all honesty, in terms of crime or, statistics, black people are far from perfect, but so are people of other races. And I'm saying that to say that a lot of times, especially when it comes to crime, we are the face of crime, but I would say the statistics or the statistics of those who actually commit crime don't fit the image a lot of times. And it's funny to me because, people who don't fit that face, who are committing most crimes, there's still a good label or positive label, on them, making it seem as if, they're still innocent, they're still good people of their own race, which there are. So, in my, honest opinion, society should drop those, stereotypes and get rid of, how we, change the image of how black folks see themselves, or how black people are seen in society. But I will go against that, or not necessarily go against it, but I will come back with this. As black people, we should aspire to be, the upstanding citizens that a lot of black folks are. Carrying themselves in a positive manner, not for society's sake, but for our own sake of survival and how we see ourselves. I'm not a pro-black activist. I'm not on here to, rant and talk bad about other people of other races. But we have to open our minds and see ourselves as different. And we got to celebrate the positive instead of the negative. A lot of times that's probably why, or that's more likely why people of other races see, the differences, or they stereotype us that way, in that light, and make it seem like it's okay to, put a bad label on everyone. But on the flip side, we can bring that to white people. We can say, oh, you come across somebody that's a Caucasian woman or male or Latino, and we say, you're actually pretty nice for someone that's white. You're open-minded, you're respectable amongst the people. You don't treat people like crap or with disdain. And then on the flip side, you get white people who are seen as racist or prejudiced. So when those white people don't fit that stereotype, oftentimes it comes up as, as shocking, and that wasn't what I was expecting. So where am I going with this? As black people, or even other races of people, we can look at, people and open our minds to drop those stereotypes about white people. And the reason I say that is because everybody has a good or positive or a bad or negative stereotype that's about, in terms of race and racial statistics, or the names, the stereotypes I like to throw out there. Because no, honestly, there are good or bad people no matter what race or color. And the fact that we still, demonize certain people or have a bad label, and we just hold on to the negative, and the negative is for some reason outweighing the positive, that says something about our society, right? Even I look at myself sometimes, and whether I have a good or bad experience, I gotta look back at the fact that everybody is not the same person. People are all different. People have different race, backgrounds, and descriptions. And as Americans, and even as people in our whole world, we should look past differences and understand that people are going to be people no matter what. A white man stealing from the store is no different than a black man stealing from the store. A white man that's, treating black people good is no different than black men treating white people good. A Latino treating Asian good or treating blacks good is no different than blacks and Asians treating Latinos good, At the end of the day, it comes down to just people just opening their minds and growing and evolving past those tropes that we have in our society. I ain't perfect. I got my own things that, I got to work on as a person. But one thing I'll say is, is the saying that, you have to be the change you wish to see. And one thing that I can say to empower others is, sometimes you have to step outside your comfort zone to get to know people for who they are. And I say that because we live in a world today where people are growing up, or people are around the circles that they're used to. They like their cliques. They like, the environments that they grew up in, that they're shaped in, that makes them feel comfortable. And while it's good to feel comfortable, it's also bad in one sense, because you're not growing and evolving the way you should. Sometimes, in some cases. With some people, growing and evolving is stepping out of the norm that leaving your city, town, or state, and going around different groups of people to get an understanding. I think that's one of the main things in the world is why people are the way they are. It's because people, aren't willing to step outside of their comfort zone. People are not willing to evolve out of something that they're used to. We lack understanding of each other. We don't understand. We don't take the time to understand. And this is why you have so many biases in politics or based on political views, is that people aren't listening to understand. People only listen so that they can respond to point out the flaws and point the finger at what's going on. We can point out, the black on black crime in Chicago. What about those black people in Maryland that are living good, living wealthy? They're not involved with those black people in Chicago. But if you go around and you talk to them and you ask them, their plight may be a little bit different than someone white, but at the end of the day, people who are successful, no matter what race, they put their work in, they're smart, they're good people, they carry themselves in an upstanding manner. They deserve to be respected and not seen in a light that some people are seen in, And I say that because in our world, it's not fair to put a bad label on everybody, on every one person. I'm not on this channel, or in this video to point out a bad light and to put it on every single person. I've had my fair share experiences with family members that weren't the best, that weren't all that great. I've met white people that weren't that friendly, But then I've also had family members that were great to me. I've also met white people or Latinos that were some of the best people I ever meet in my life. And the one thing that I can say in our society today is if people had a better understanding or took the time to at least understand and try to relate to someone else, that would carry us a lot further in our society, based on the fact that people can finally get a better understanding of how to treat one another, how to engage with one another, and having a much better social understanding other than just giving people labels and going off of assumptions. And I say it's about time it's been way past time since, that we get rid of labels and assumptions. And as a black man, I don't want to be seen as a criminal or a thug or an idiot, someone that's not intelligent or smart or talented. I like to be seen as the opposite. Someone who fulfills his potential and lives a life of abundance and prosperity. Someone who's smart, carries himself in an upstanding manner, so on and so forth. The same could be said for white people or Latinos or Asians or Indians. People should be given a fair shot and a fair chance, and people should be understood. But we have to take that time as people to grow and evolve and to see that change. It shouldn't take unusual circumstances for people to see that. But sometimes things like that happen. But that's all I'm going to say for this video. One thing I like to bring up is that to be informed is not to be woke. So, stay conscious, my friends. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep evolving. Thank you for listening to my video. You all have a great day.